Hey, parents, welcome to today's episode. I get the privilege of interviewing Dr. Jerry Weichman again. We had so much fun. I invited him back, and we have a robust discussion about resilience, how to teach resilience, and recidivism, which is like, going back to old patterns. It truly is the pathway forward. I cannot wait for you to hear it. Have a great day. Hey, parents, and hi, Dr. Jerry. We're so happy to have you here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me and having me back.
Yeah, I am very excited to continue, I guess, to have you in front of my audience because I just really respect what you're doing, of course, and appreciate all your knowledge and the effort of really putting out, honestly, just so much free information, free resources, because not every parent's in the 1%.
No, that's correct. And thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So really interesting. Last night, actually, I was facilitating a parent group for a specific program that I collaborate with. And this program specifically, their client is women plus young adult. So 17 to 27, lots of like bipolar, borderline, mostly that kind of milieu. And this mom asked a really great question, and we had a great discussion about it. But I also wanted to, ask you what your thoughts were on that. And she said, "How can we teach resilience at this point?" And I know, of course, I think many parents, if not all parents, would love their children to be resilient, but especially when you have some mental health issues present, and I'm sure they tried. I know these parents, of course, they tried to teach resilience. So maybe you could go into maybe what gets in the way of resilience, and also if you haven't started teaching it already, how can you begin if the kiddo is a young adult?
Yeah. Well, that's obviously a common question that parents ask, and especially when they've gone through really challenging things with
Yeah.
their kids, regardless of age. My first thought when I heard you talking my response was, well, it's never too late,
Mm.
right? I mean, it never really is. We see parents coming in that have had habits for 30 years that
Right.
now have to learn how to pivot to do things differently. And when you care enough about it, or it makes sense, or it lines up in your mind of what needs to happen and why, you can do these things. And if
Mm.
as an adult, you can learn how to be a better spouse to your partner, or you can learn to be a better parent to your adult son or daughter. Your kids can definitely learn this if they're in their, late teens, early 20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It doesn't matter. So the door doesn't close. And so you've got to keep hope alive, because if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. You can't
Well,
really go from there.
right. Well, thank you for that, because it literally brought hope into my heart. I was like, oh, of course. And I was like thinking, when did I learn resilience? Well, maybe only a few years ago. So, I
Yeah,
mean, you know what I mean?
right. And sometimes we have to go through really challenging things.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just get in the situation where we feel like we don't have any agency or control over ourselves. And that's not the case, right? So when
Right.
when your mindset is, I can't do anything about anything that's happening to me, how I feel, how I think, and you really subscribe to that, you're not going to be able to build resilience out of that. So that's got to
Yeah.
be the first thing that
Mm.
is communicated somehow, which is life and people don't control how you think or you feel, you do.
Ugh.
And there's a lot of things that we can learn in order to navigate how we think and feel inside. And if you make the inside okay, it doesn't matter what's going on outside.
Yeah.
So
Can I
that's,
pause you there for just a
yeah,
second?
absolutely.
I just think you brought up something so interesting. I I feel like our society, our culture, for the most part, doesn't really teach that. Like the language that we use, it's very blamey, I would say, and very culture like, no, that's your fault. You change, right? And we tend to ask life to change or other people to change, right? And so then I think that's a lot of where that maybe victim mentality comes
Yes.
from, right? How do we? Well, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but how do we? And I guess we change society maybe one person at a time. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. If we learn how to have agency over ourselves, over our thoughts, and over our feelings, and we can control our insides and feel better, be better, have more energy to put into the people around us, then that is your answer. It's
Mm,
we have to do this on it's put the air mask on yourself first before society, right? It's
yeah.
we start doing this to better ourselves, and everything's contagious, right? I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if your
Right.
kids, I mean, my kids, I get sick all the time because I've got a high schooler, middle schooler, elementary schooler. They're like petri dishes. They come home and I see all these kids in the office. So I get sick all the time, but everything is contagious for better or worse. I remember the pay it forward movement way back in the day when everybody's just doing good things for each other, and you'd be in line at Taco Bell and pay for the car behind you and take off and it would feel awesome.
Yeah.
And then they do it for somebody else. Everything is contagious. So if we can do a better job of learning how to be resilient, being able to put energy into people around us, derive more purpose and meaning in our life from that, that too is contagious. So let me bring it back to your original question so we
Yeah.
don't get too far off track.
Right.
But when it comes to resilience, yeah, it's the belief that you do have control over your thoughts and your feelings, or you can. It's you struggle with it. People get really black and white today. I either can or I can't. And I always say no. You just have difficulty,
Yeah.
right? So it's about how you kind of frame it for yourself. But the things that get in the way of resilience is the faulty belief that I can't control anything that's
Um,
going on inside of me, that life is giving me things that I can't handle and it's too much, right? These are these deficiency mindsets that we kind of adopt as a result of being in the environment and experiencing the things that we experience. And those are the things that often need to be corrected
mm,
in order to start developing momentum, in order to start learning how to push back, how to channel anger and frustration into productive energy, how to really push back against everything that is coming down on us because you're really ultimately not given anything that you can't handle.
right. Yeah. I think it's really interesting, even combining the contagion thing that you're talking about, is that when parents learn how to be more resilient, they naturally pass that on to their children, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the kids, they're always watching. Even
Yeah.
your 20 somethings. They're constantly seeing, even if they pretend or talk like they don't care, like they know, they don't even, they're just staring at their phone. They're still internalizing everything that you're saying and doing. And they're comparing and contrasting what you say and what you do to see if it lines up,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But when you truly live it to the best of your ability, a life that stays as consistent to yourself and who you are and what life is about and being resilient, they pick that up. And these are conversations that you can have with your kids that are literally 10-second conversations. It's not one big long, hey, let me sit you down for 30 minutes and tell you about
Not a
resilience.
lecture.
Correct, because you
Fair.
lose them after 30 seconds anyways, but just I'm thinking about teaching resilience and what I've tried to do with my kids, and are my kids perfect? Absolutely not. I mean, I struggle as a parent, I'm super stressed, I'm in this with everybody else, even though this is what I do. This is what compelled me to create the platform is this is really hard and stressful and challenging, right?
That's so good to
But
hear, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And so, but I think about some of the things I've tried to do, which was, hey, catching my kids in that deficiency mindset, going, hey, things get tough. We get tougher in this family.
mhm,
You're never going to be given anything that you can't handle. Like, don't get sad, get mad. These are like little, less
mhm,
than 10 seconds. These are 3-second little snippets that I drop on them, little knowledge nuggets. And it's the repetitiveness of that when you find those opportunities as a kid, or as a parent with your kids.
right, right. Um, do you this is, throwing this at you, but do you have a resilient story of maybe from a client or from your own life that you'd like to share?
Oh, sure. So yeah, so I mean, I kind of had to. Life's given me a lot of messages, I feel like, and lessons that shaped me to get to where I am today, as with most people. When my mom was pregnant, she was bleeding profusely. She was spotting really heavily. They called it. The doctor gave her some medicine that was supposed to stop that, but it was known to cause birth deficiency. So when I was born with the right foot with no bones in it and a deformed left foot that was half the length, half the width with 3 toes on it. And my parents were told
What?
that I was never gonna walk by the doctors. And, fortunately, they connected with a child prosthetic program, And at 4 months old, I had that appendage amputated so I could be fitted for a prosthetic. Um, so growing up, that's how I grew up. And and of course, in elementary school, we didn't know about bullying back when I was young. And I just got bullied like crazy by all the kids for my leg. And it was really hard, challenging time for me in elementary school to be enduring that on most days. And you know, I feel like at that moment, I felt like there's nobody really here for me. I'm stuck in this. And I started having those really hopeless feelings that this is enveloping me and I'm going down the black vortex here. And this was third or fourth grade. And I remember thinking to myself, well, you're either going to let this carry you into that vortex or you're going to start working your way out of this thing. And
Mm,
so it was kind of more of a natural, you have to go through it's a lot easier to learn how to be resilient when you have challenging situations.
yeah.
Um, and I know from there, the backside of that is I learned how to push back. I learned how to stay strong. I learned how to, stay resilient. And fortunately, I was still blessed with athletic ability, even though I had a prosthetic leg and I was recruited for baseball and in high school. And I played baseball and football, tore my rotator cuff, and went on to play Division I college football.
Wow. Thank you for the story of resilience. I'm not sure if anybody could top that. That's great. Not that it's about that, but you mentioned something in there I thought was really worth bringing up is that you said challenging situations lead to resilience. Like, I'm not sure how anybody would build resilience without something challenging, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you can have the concept, but the application of it, you don't have
Right.
the opportunity for.
Right. So what I find with my clients and then when I work with programs with the clients is that, well, parent clients, kid clients, is there's a lot of learned helplessness
Mhm.
emanating from the programs. And I do believe that parents almost always mean well, not all the time. Most of the parents mean well, but there's this like extra protection that is keeping our children from learning resilience, right? Would you
Yeah.
would you speak to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, and it's no fault. I mean, look, first of all, we all make mistakes as parents, tons, hundreds,
Yeah,
thousands sometimes, right? Life doesn't come with a manual, neither did your kid, and so we're just doing our best with what we know, and we
yeah,
make a ton of mistakes.
right.
And in these kind of situations, it's your heart leads the charge is what gets in the way. It's you love this kid so much that you want to be able to do everything for them to help them to make their life easier. Maybe you had a harder life and you want them to have an easier life, but there's a lot of motivators there. Love by itself is enough. But by us doing that and kind of what we call snow plowing, which is, as soon as something's slightly wrong, we go in and fix it without teaching our kids how to fix it. They're not learning the opportunities to fall and to
Yeah,
catch themselves. You learn so much more from mistakes than you do from successes. So because our hearts are leading the charge in front of our brains, we're now taking the short-term gain of being able to help our kids make their life easier for the long-term consequence of them not learning the skills, the abilities that they need to develop in order to feel confident and be resilient in life if we're not allowing them to make a lot of mistakes and get this to suffer. That's the hardest part. I mean, my kids have had really challenging times just being kids, and it is really hard, and it's a hopeless feeling to watch your kids struggle and suffer and not be able to help him or her.
yeah,
But when you take a step back from that, at least for me, yeah, my heart hurts, but my brain almost is like a sadist that goes, "This is awesome,"
yeah,
because I know that this is actually in the long run good for them. Like the suffering is good if they can learn how to work themselves through these situations because it's developing their callus. Because as we know, life is ripe with adversity, and these situations are the callus builders in the
yeah,
long run for them.
yeah, yeah. I was just the thought of my son who went to wilderness. I have seen the challenge and the trial of his experience, why he went to wilderness and all of that, which was like 8 years ago now. So he's in his mid 20s and he is working, has a job, and the the leadership skills that I don't think wilderness necessarily promotes, but the leadership skills I really do think he gained from his experience with substances and wilderness and just crawling himself out of that really blows my mind sometimes as he's speaking about work and how he relates to the people. He sees like enmeshment really well because we were very enmeshed at one point. And so just the resilience that that taught him. And I think that's sometimes hard with for parents who have kids in programs now, right? They see, I would say, it's hard to see past the deficiencies and the issues, right, that have led them to the program. But I have a lovely view of what happens after so much time has passed. And I see him really much wiser than a lot of adults.
Absolutely. I mean, you get a
Yeah.
crash course in mental health, you get a crash course in self-discovery, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of skill sets that those kids come out of programs with, and perspective, because
Yes.
we get into these hard, challenging times in life, and if we can step back when we're like, "Oh, this is too much. I can't handle this," you look back on what you did, which was completing a wilderness program or a residential program, and you go, this if I can do that, I can do this, right? And
Yes.
it
That's
puts
what
you
he
right
says.
back on, right? And you're back on the throttle again. Plus, the skill sets are great. I mean, I always thought to myself, with all these kids that go to the wilderness, if a car spins off a icy road and you have to wait there a few days, you want a wilderness kid, a kid that's been to wilderness with you, because they're like, hey, guess what? I'm going to bust a fire for you, and
That's
like I know how to do this and this, and like your kid will help you survive. Waiting for somebody to come find you.
that is the truth. And he has said that, those exact words. Jeez, if I could do wilderness, I could do this. Like,
But guess what? I mean, that's also gonna help them if and when they become parents too, which is I know how to protect my family better in situations, or like we can go hiking and I know what to do here if something happens, or what not to do in these situations. And
yep.
the lessons continue to unfold decades and decades down the line.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the messages I would love, to share with the audience is most people who listen are, right in that really heartbreaking, span of time where their kiddos at a program or in treatment or just coming home and they're blowing up or whatever's happening. And it is difficult. You mentioned the word suffering. It truly, truly is suffering. And it's so like an impossible ask, sit there and watch. And especially parents, well, I mean, all the parents have, PTSD history, and it's, man, I don't know, it's just really hard. It's really hard.
It's yeah, hard is an ultimate understatement.
I
I
know.
mean, I've sat with so many families that have been parents that have come to that conclusion in my office.
Yeah.
And there's never a dry eye.
Yeah.
The guilt and the shame and the sadness. But once you work your way through the dark times, then there's light on the other end for these kids.
Yeah.
And now they're adults and they can still learn. That's the great thing is things typically have to get worse for people to want to work to make it better. And
Yeah.
that's why we have to allow our kids, even if they've gone through programs and they have slip setbacks. That's another thing that really gets the antenna up for parents, is when the kids start having step backs from their progress coming out of programs.
Yep.
That's a natural part of life, and that's a natural part of behavior change. Is even if you're taking 8 steps forward, you're always going to have one or two, right? But the downward spiral and the everybody goes back to, I don't want to go back to that point. I don't want my kid going
Yep.
back to that point. And so if your anxiety goes up and your stress goes up in those situations and your apprehension goes up so much, you're not going to be able to hang in there and think rationally through that situation and allow them to have the space and create the space they need in order to work themselves back out of it again. And then oftentimes we go rushing in there because we care and we're antagonizing the situation and how they feel. And so their
Yeah.
frustration and stress is going up. And now they're going to be taking even further backslides because now we're not helping them. We're making their stress and their problem in the situation worse.
Yep. I was just thinking that when I do a lot of transitioning or helping parents transition their kids home from treatment, right? And so and I was just doing this the other day. I was trying to help the parents. I was gently letting them know that recidivism is a very real thing, right? The falling back into old habit kind of things, right? And it's very hard to, I hate to say the word convince. It's very hard to accept as a parent that, because I remember, our son's wilderness therapist saying he's going to use again. I'm like, no, we're not letting that happen. That type of, and maybe that's part of, I don't know what that is, but it is hard to help parents understand that it's part of the journey. It feels very impossible, right?
Hmm.
Um, and especially when parents have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars typically, and the heart break and all of that, they think, well, no, there's no way. So what's your experience in helping parents understand how important, honestly, the recidivism is in their journey out of it?
Well, I mean, it starts with something that started a long time ago for me, and it's control.
Hmm.
It's the prompt of what can you actually control here?
Yeah.
Because guess what? You never could control that kid. You could
Right.
influence that kid, but you were never the one behind the wheel. And as parents, we get into these situations where we care so much, and we kid our if we see our kid, they're the one behind the wheel, literally. So if they're swerving on the road, and we pull up to them at 70 miles an hour, and we roll down our windows and we're yelling at them to do things right, and they're not listening. Parents have a tendency to go way past where they should in those situations. Now they're unbuckling their seatbelt, they're hanging out their passenger window to try to grab a hold of the kid's steering wheel to get it go the right way, and the kid's mad that the parents have their hands in the steering wheel, and it's chaos.
Yeah.
These are the situations where you have to realize they're the one behind the wheel, and in that kind of an analogy, you'd have to just hit the brakes and pull backwards, roll up the window, turn up the music. Knowing that you've done everything that you can to tee up and help this kid do have the scaffolding they need to work out the issues that they have, to be who they can be in their life. But now they're going to have to run that themselves. It's going to have to take its course, and setbacks and recidivism is part of the process. Because if you've ever had something that you had a habit and you had trouble changing, but you did, there's no way that you just flipped that switch. It was you had to hit bottom again, or use again, or drink again, or look at porn again, or whatever it was that you're trying to change so many times. And because you had to build that over time. It's a building, right? Because that part of your brain, another part of your brain's like, really, we're doing this again, seriously? But you have to do those a number of times before you say enough.
Yeah.
And when you say enough, it's usually enough, because you're taking back control of that part of your brain. Because again, life and people and environments don't control how you think or feel and how you act. You do.
Yeah. Uh, Going back to that, you had mentioned that at the very beginning. How do you help parents and families, um, I guess, own that concept that we really are in charge when many times they're looking like, no, that happened, so now I have to think this. How do you go about that?
Um, well, I like to get them to make an argument for what they can't control in these situations, because they never can
Oh.
make one, right?
Right,
One
like,
that
yeah, make your
works.
kids stop taking substances,
Like
like, go ahead and
I help them like work themselves out of it without me having to do much, just from well, show me, like, tell me what you can control here. Because then they start the things that they thought they could control, they actually start thinking about in that kind of a prompt, and then they realize, oh yeah, I have nothing here. Um, so then it's easier to shift the focus back to what's going on inside of them, so that
Mm,
they can learn how to regulate things and make things better for them. And it makes it better for if they're parenting with, if they have a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or the dog in the environment, it makes it better for everybody else too,
yeah,
right? Look, it's there's so many things that we love gets in the way. And if you're struggling with these things, it's because you have a great heart and you love your child so much. And that's a blessing and a curse, right? Like we're
Yeah.
talking about the curse part of how it gets in the way, but it's also such a gift and a blessing. But what kids need is just consistency in that they're loved more than
Yeah.
anything. It's just the touches, the holding, the hey, I'm really proud of you. I'm proud of you for who you are, and I know the future's it's going to be a good one for you. But um, we have to make peace with the fact that we can't control. I mean, I remember when my oldest, who's she's now 16 and a half, almost 17, but when the first kid, apple of your eye, your heart learns to love in a completely different way. And when she left for preschool, her first day of preschool, I remember thinking to myself, you don't belong to me anymore. You
Oh,
belong
God.
to you
Yeah.
belong to God or life, and whatever's out there now, I can no longer protect you from.
Yeah.
And because I can't keep you in a vacuum, and you're going to inevitably be exposed to bad kids and bad situations, and you're going to pick up a lot of things along the way, and there's nothing I can do anymore to protect and save you from that.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's what the
crushing.
byproduct is of a lot of these kids that struggle either in outpatient therapy like we have at the Weichman Clinic or in programs. They've picked up a lot of stuff along the way.
Yeah.
And if you're not driving with your kid in their car when they're picking up stuff that people are throwing out of their windows ahead of them on the freeway, you can't be there to unhook it and help them out, right? Like it's okay that they picked up a lot along the way. There's nothing that they can't unhook and work themselves through if they get to a point that they really want to. And the hard part is the waiting game of allowing them to get to that point where they actually want to make those changes.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so it is a very crushing moment or moments for a parent, I think, to just be reminded what they actually don't control. What you were
Yeah.
just speaking of, it is really crushing.
And
That's
it's
okay.
hard when they leave your home to go to programs, and it's hard when they leave to go off into the real world or go to college. I mean, it's hard to break up with your kid, but that's what you have to do.
It is what you, oh gosh. Yeah. Sorry. I relate really a lot to that because I have 4 adult sons and it's like, oh God, just, you just love them. Gosh, anyway, I'm a big fan of my kids, as most parents are.
I love that.
One thing that I'm really like, I guess, feeling or hearing is, and I think this can be such a hard ask, is the belief in your kids that they can actually handle their own lives. They can handle what life offers, right? That they can do it. And I think so many parents, um, because of the history of their children looking like they can't handle it for many reasons, suicidal ideation comes to mind, the very maladaptive coping of many things. Just that belief, it's like the biggest stretch. I remember feeling like the biggest leap to choose to trust my son after he came home was somewhat excruciating.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to, and nor did I actually, right? But I felt like I just knew I'm like I have to give this kid a chance, and he totally, fumbled. By the way, of course, because we're talking about
Hmm.
recidivism, but to
Hmm.
trust that eventually he would figure it out. Oh gosh, that takes a lot of energy. I was gonna
Well,
say.
I think the big part for that you have to ask yourself is your kid capable of learning?
Hmm.
Period.
Hmm.
Right? Like if they touch the stove when the electric stove when the stove's hot, do they
Yeah.
keep touching the stove? Right? And if the answer to that is no, then you have to realize your kid's capable of learning.
Hmm.
And part of what creates that stress and anxiety and apprehension for us as parents is we're taking our current snapshot. This is where a lot of parents, particularly moms, really get into trouble
Hmm.
because without even realizing it, because you're subconsciously taking the snapshot of what you're seeing in front of you and you're fast forwarding it a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line and repositioning out there to see what it looks like. And then it's completely freaking you out and stressing you out because now you're creating a mirage that you're now reacting to in real time, right?
Wow. Have you been in my head? What's happening?
Sat with a lot of parents.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and so that's a you problem.
right.
That's not a your kid problem. That's a you problem. And you have to be aware of these things when you're doing these if you want to be able to get your kid the opportunity to make the changes. And don't forget they key off of you too.
They do.
So you having this false, even if you're not saying it, they feel it when you feel like you don't believe in me. And are you putting wind into their sails or pulling it out for
Yeah,
momentum to be able to figure it out for themselves?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is. It's about us. It sure is. um, oh my goodness. There's just a lot here. I would love for you to continue to or to remind my audience like what you provide for them, and what you've built and created.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I've been doing this for 27 years, 6,500 families, and I started seeing families, particularly parents, really start to struggle many years ago,
Yeah.
to the point where they were no longer proactive. They were reactive to the many things that were going on, their kids' mental health, their own mental health, and the families were really suffering. And I have been doing this, working on the tools that work for so long that I said, you know what? I've had enough. I felt compelled to spend years creating a national platform that's free to everybody to access, where you can have one trusted source where the information, the tools work. And what I did was I created Raising Families with Dr. Jerry, which is a podcast that features one episode per week. I mean, sorry, one topic per week with 2 episodes. So you got a quick monologue, you got an interview with a guest or an expert and my co-host. And the monologues are designed intentionally to be able to get you information that works really quickly. It's designed so that you can take a clip, send it to your son or your daughter.
Ah,
It's designed so that even if you don't have a conversation with them about, let's say, what resilience is, it allows you the opportunity, if you send them that clip or play it for them when you're in the car together or at home together, then you can catch them when they're being feeling like life wins and you're like, remember we heard in the car, things get tough, we get tougher, right? That they need those prompts. Outside of that, we created Follower Friday, which is you can send an email or a voice memo to info@raisingfamiliespodcast.com about any issue that you're struggling with, because parents aren't talking about how much we all struggle.
yeah.
They're afraid of looking to be seen as less than or ostracized, and we're surrounded by perfection around us in
Failures.
our neighborhoods as well as on social media. And so we don't have to be in a vacuum. Life doesn't come with a manual. We all struggle. I'm stressed. I struggle. Let's talk about what issues we're struggling with and what are better ways to handle it. And so that's an opportunity for us to create a discussion based on everybody, sending in what they're struggling with. I have a dedicated YouTube channel. It's Raising Families with DRJW. That's for parents and for kids. All the socials, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. And I run the Weichman Clinic here in California. So if you're in California, we've got a robust evaluation. We're actually not just treating the kid, we're treating the family system. So parents are on the hook for
Thank you.
parenting the kids, and we're taking the family system apart and building it back together on the back end. But we also have every service that you would need, and we can put a team around it, whether it's psychiatry, neuropsychological assessments and testing. We can family therapy, couples counseling. We can put a team around your family to expedite everything that's wrong and turn the case around. It's been successful to date so far.
Yeah. Well, I just again thank you so much for all the resources, and for making it more accessible,
Oh, by
by
the way, sorry, all of that's available on raisingfamiliespodcast.com. My
okay.
apologies.
Yeah, no worries. It'll be in the show notes as well for sure. Um, one of the things I wanted to highlight that you mentioned is the camaraderie and belonging that comes from putting yourself in a place where there are so many parents struggling with struggling kids. And it just could not be overemphasized how helpful that is to realize you are not alone. And I
You're not
think
alone. You're not in a vacuum. Don't allow yourself to be in a vacuum
e
anymore.
exactly, and I from my own experience of talking to many parents as well, it's almost one of the first things that hits is the sense of failure and the sense of hiding. Like, I wanna hide, no one else is having issues, that kinda thing, and you and I both agree that that is just not the case, and to choose it. I appreciate what you just said, just to choose to open yourself up and realize you are just so not alone, so
Yeah, and you're helping others too. I mean, I
Yes.
talk to parents that they common this is what prompted me to create it. Was I was hearing particularly moms hear other moms talk about any issue that their kids are struggling with and get relief from it.
Yeah,
That's so sad. Like, it shouldn't have to be like this. We all struggle.
we all
I mean,
do.
I look like I've aged 10 years in the past, like, couple just because it is so stressful raising kids.
Yeah. And I don't know if this has been your experience, but as I work with other families and parents and hearing other parents, we maybe get the fortunate, I guess, good consequence of feeling that, right? Feeling like, oh yeah, I'm definitely not alone in the struggles and whatever. So that's been an interesting, I guess, highlight of what we do for just me personally. Is when you help others, it tends to just help you. So
Yeah,
I
I mean,
found that
look,
to be really
and you
helpful.
telling your story lets everybody know that it's okay, that you're
Right.
okay, that life's okay. It helps them to see that it's okay to talk about issues and problems, and if they are just so struggling with something that's so small in comparison to what you're going through and the story that you have to tell, it helps them put their problems in perspective as
Yeah.
well. I mean, you're
Yeah.
just making a difference by coming out of your silo and talking about these things for you
Yeah.
and everybody around you.
Yeah, exactly. And when you hear that from someone else, it just feels like I have permission then to say something more honest.
Yeah, I mean, think about even as an adult, if you ever heard somebody say some really, really hard, challenging, crazy things about like how they grew up or something that happened in their family or that, there was a murder in their family, whatever, you hear these things. Did you ever step back and go, ugh, like that's so messed up. She's got to be so messed up. I never want to, I'm just going to, keep her at arm's distance now from now on. No, you were like, you know what? That is awesome. The fact that she or he, had the cojones to talk about that,
Yeah.
let alone they still are who they are today. It's inspirational and you gain more respect from people when you talk about the hard and challenging things because life is hard for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And the authenticity is just like a basic human need, right? Of feeling into other. It's
If you look at on all the stuff that's online, that's what people want more now than anything. What are they following? They're following people's lives through YouTube channels, and they don't want to look at professionally produced content. They want someone standing there with a camera with no makeup on, and you know what I mean. And
yeah.
there's a huge push for
Mhm.
authenticity because we're all struggling to find like our genuine, authentic selves and what's authentic
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of a silly anecdote, but while you were speaking about the Raising Families podcast, I thought, hey, folks, please go there and not AI. That was
Yeah.
my thought. Like, hey, how about ask Dr. Jerry? And,
Well, that's what that
so
thank you. That's what the monologues are for, is it becomes a database. Like any
yes.
issue that you're struggling with, you can scroll through in 10 minutes or less, know what it is, what the tool is to fix it that works, and how to implement it at home, both on yourself and with your kids.
Yeah.
I
It's brilliant.
when AI first came out, everybody thinks AI is taking their jobs, but I typed in, "I'm depressed. What do I do?" And looked at what they were saying. I'm like, "Oh, we're good for I'm good for a while." And then I looked at anxiety and I'm like, "I'm anxious. What do I do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm good for a while." You're not going to find. It's pretty profound to see how far off AI is when it comes to mental health still.
Mm.
So you're absolutely right.
Oh, good. Well, trusted resource. That's what we're headed toward. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you again so much for being here. I just appreciate your time and your expertise and just your personality. That sounds crazy, but I'm just saying thanks for being so approachable. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
you know what? Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. And if there's anything that came out of this episode, all I ask is we just pass it along. Just
Yeah, pay
work.
it forward,
Let's work
right?
together to make a difference for others.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much and take care.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.